The title of this video is that you are evil, and I can prove it. How many times have you labeled someone else as evil? Or maybe not even evil, you just call them a psychopath or crazy or subhuman, inhumane. Recognize, yeah, right. Every single one of you that's watching this video, when I just said that you're evil, you said to yourself, I'm not evil. You said to yourself, yes, there may be other people that are evil, but not me. Not me. Them. Not me. First of all, we need to even define what's evil. Does evil even really exist? Like, what's evil? Like, what actually is evil? It's a word that everyone uses as if they know what it means. But if you was to ask most people, even the people that use that word, if you was to ask them what it means, they couldn't really explain it. They might just say bad or something like that. But I don't know. Let's. I'm not saying that I have like a perfect definition. I mean, if we want like a textbook definition, then we can just go on Google and check the definition. But if we just look at like what is evil a little closer, in a sense, yes, it is. I know I just made fun of that, but in a sense, it is just bad or very bad. It's more like evil is like wicked. And it's like, it's very negative, and evil, in a sense, is always at the expense of someone else. Like, you wouldn't really call someone evil if they've never harmed anyone else. You would only call, like, people call Hitler. They call Hitler evil because he killed how many million people? You might call this person evil, that person evil, because probably they did something which led to the suffering of many others. That's really kind of what we call evil. And really, if you were to ask most people, does evil exist? They will definitely say yes. But then if you ask, are there evil people? Most of them would still say yes, but I'd argue that there would be less people that would say yes, as opposed to the first question, if there's just evil in general. Like, I feel like a lot of people would say yes, there's evil, but then if you ask them, are there people who are just outright evil? Like, just they're not good people, they're just literally just evil people. Do those kinds of people exist? A lot of people would still say yes, but it would be less. Many people would say yes, there's not really people who are inherently evil. Maybe there's some serial killers, like very small amount. But most people aren't evil in nature, but they are capable of evil. Like, yes, that person, I don't know, who, for example, got convicted for attempted murder or like assault and battery or something, like they physically harmed someone, then you might say yes, like and let's say, for example, they were drunk or something, you can say yes, like they're capable of evil, but if you've spoken to them, you'd met them, you actually had a conversation with them, you chilled with them for a few weeks and got to know them, you'll probably say, nah, this person isn't evil. They may be capable of doing evil things, but they're not outright evil. But actually kind of what I'm going to be covering in this video is actually that pretty much everyone is evil. And I know that might sound dramatic. In one sense, it might sound dramatic. And it might sound like I'm saying too much. And in another sense, that might even take the sting away from me calling you evil. Because now I'm saying that everyone's evil. And then you're thinking, all right, cool, yes, maybe I'm evil, but everyone's evil. And now it's making you feel better about yourself. So that's really, as I said, so evil is something negative, wicked, wrong, bad. That's kind of the essence of it, right? And it's always at the expense of someone else. It's like you're doing something bad and wrong to somebody else. Now, if someone was, why do we put evil people, like people who've been convicted of crimes and felons, like serial killers and all these things, why do we put them on death row or in solitary confinement or maximum prison? Because then they're around less people. Like in solitary confinement, they're by themselves. You can't do evil if you're by yourself. Do you notice that? Like, you can harm yourself, but self-harm, people might look at you and say, like, you're mentally ill, unstable, but that's not really evil. If you're just harming yourself and no one else is getting hurt, is that really evil? That's not really evil. So recognize that to do evil, there has to be others to do evil too. That's the first thing. So in a sense, what evil is when, and recognize, perhaps not in every single case, but I'd argue 90% plus, or maybe even 95 or 99% of cases. I'm not just speaking about where someone was convicted of a crime. Of course that as well, but just in any kind of case where you say someone was doing something evil, like Hitler killing people, or that person robbing that old woman's purse, or whatever, or just even that person writing a hateful comment or something like that. It doesn't really matter about the scale or the degree of like how severe it is. We're just speaking about evil, just evil. There's different scales of evil. And certain people might say, oh, like them lower scales of evil, that's not evil. No, it is evil. You might say, okay, I've done some evil things, but it's nothing compared to Hitler or something, therefore I'm not evil. No, that's false. That's a false logic. You're still right, and I'm not saying that you're as bad as Hitler or anything like that. But you can't just scale up the thing like so high to the maximum and then say, oh look, I'm not the maximum, therefore I'm 0% evil. You see? Well, I got lost there. I got sidetracked. What was I saying? So yeah, you need other people to... One sec, I'm gonna check. I remember now. So 90 plus or 95 or 99% of all those cases of evil, recognize that the person that was doing the evil gained something from that, or they benefited somehow. Pretty much always. Sometimes it's just an accident. And when it's just an accident, we don't really call that person evil, like manslaughter. Sometimes people kill people by accident. Like, can you really call them evil? If they really did not see that young child crossing the road 1 millisecond before they turn that corner or whatever, you can't really call them evil. Like some people would, because they're just hurting so much. Maybe the person that died was a loved one, so they need someone to blame. But you can't really call that person evil if it's an accident. So, and if it's not an accident, that means that they did it on purpose. They purposefully did this thing, which was which was hurtful or which had negative consequences on someone else. They did this on purpose. They knew this, they were conscious of it, and they did it on purpose. Why did they do that? They did it because they had something to gain, of course. Like, when Hitler killed all them Jews, he was trying to protect his ideal image of Germany. Like, he thought, this is for the good of Germany, or this is for the good of the world, or for the good of me, or it doesn't matter what the fuck, but he wouldn't have done that if he thought that there was nothing in it for him. I can tell you that much. And that's obvious. If you have any kind of intelligence, you'll see this. That thief who stole that thing, whatever object he stole, the money, the jewelry, which he's going to probably sell and get money again. See, that's him gaining something, or her, or whoever. That's them gaining something. The other person's loss was their gain. The other person's pain was their gain. So in every single of these situations where someone's committing evil and many people are being hurt and their lives are being destroyed and all this kind of stuff, the person who's doing it has something to gain. So again, we're breaking it down. Evil is when someone does something hurtful or detrimental to others in the interest of their own gain and their own agenda. That's evil. See, and what causes evil? Self-bias. Being biased to your own views. And of course, there's scales of this. So the higher degree and the higher the severity of your own self-bias, the higher the degree of the evil which you will commit will be. Of course, I did say that the person who's committing the evil knew what they were doing. They did it on purpose. They were conscious of it and they did it anyway. Yes, in most cases that's true, but realize there's some people, or there's many cases of people committing evil. And I'm not even saying that it's not evil because they didn't know, but some of them are so unconscious, they're not even aware of the pain that they're causing others because they have no empathy. That's like a classic sociopath or psychopath. But nowadays, like, a lot of people are becoming like this anyway because everything's so disconnected. But they lack empathy of the other, so they can hurt them, and really they don't really even realize how bad like what they did was. They don't feel anything. It's like it's not registering. They don't even realize how bad what they did was. And that's one of the main things why a lot of you, even though probably none of you have killed anyone or done anything like so severe, otherwise you probably wouldn't be watching this video, you'll probably be in jail and so on. But even though most of you have probably never done anything like so severe, you've still done many evil things, and you probably weren't even aware of the negative consequences that your actions had. Like the thing that you did that made you happy because you got X, Y, and Z, you probably wasn't even conscious of the other person who was at the expense of that. And of course, in a sense, it is worse when you know it and you still purposefully do it. But even when you know it and you purposefully do it, there still has to be some kind of lack of empathy because you might on the surface, but you don't really know. You don't really know what you're doing still because otherwise you wouldn't do it. So one of the things that kind of lets people get away with evil is their lack of consciousness and being able to grasp the consequences of their actions. So essentially, if you've ever hurt anyone and gained something from it, you're evil. And everyone's evil. See, because in a sense, life is a setup. It's a setup. Like, it was designed in such a way to almost curate evilness. Because it's like we're in a game, right? It's almost like it's a setup. It's really a setup because the moment that there are many people, as I said, if there's one person, then there can't even be conflict because you need two parties to have conflict. But the moment you have many, and all of them have their own individual personalities, their own subjective beliefs, their own agendas, then let's say person A wants something, person B wants something, person C wants something, person D wants something. Like, how are we going to decide who gets what? How are we going to decide, like, who gets what they want, who doesn't get what they want, who suffers, who enjoys their life? Like, how do we decide all that stuff? If there were infinite resources, then it would be easy. If, like, we had infinite space, if there was, like, infinite space to, like, infinite land, essentially. Like, if we had infinite land, we had infinite edible food, like, on every square meter, there's fucking trees growing with edible fruits that give you all the nutrients. You didn't even have to pay. It's just fucking, it grows in a day. You just eat it, and you know what I'm saying? If it was like that, then it would be very easy. But we have limited resources. So, in a sense, it's like, it's so multi-dimensional because you have every single individual, they all have different desires and different agendas, right? So you have individuals and they're kind of battling against each other. Then you have like small groups with their kind of collective identity and their collective agenda, and another small group, and then they're battling each other. And then not just that, even inside the small group, there's conflict. Like, what's the word? There's kind of internal conflict. So there's this group and that group. So there's the individuals. They all want something different. They're battling against each other with limited resource. See, all the things that they're trying to get is limited. See, as I said, if it was infinite, there wouldn't be any problems. It wouldn't matter how many humans there was on Earth or anything like that. But now with 8 billion humans and so on and so forth, and with the same amount of space on Earth, then there's going to be less and less space for each of us. There's going to be less and less food for each of us. See, so there's different agendas. Everyone wants something else. But there are certain things like food, shelter, sex, these kind of things, the base desires, those overlap for everyone. So a lot of the resources, everyone's battling for the same resources. If everyone wanted something completely different, like if one person could survive on oxygen and someone else could survive only on water and someone else could survive only from sunlight, and we didn't need to battle for that, then it will be fine. There will be no conflict. I'm telling you, there will be no conflict. Now, the only conflict there would be maybe boxing for entertainment. It would literally only be people who wanted to really fight. And I think even that wouldn't happen that much because there probably wouldn't be any money on the line, no prize money, and then even then people wouldn't want to just fight just to fight. If there wasn't really their survival on the line, they wouldn't really want to fight. So it's the classic analogy I've used. If you put 10 people in a room with 10 meals, so let's say it's day one. There's 10 people in a room. You put 10 meals in. Each of them, if they're relatively friendly, just normal people, they'll have 1 meal each, right? Then day 2, you put 9 meals, but there's still 10 people. They might still, cut a few, like just each of them take a little section out from their plate so that they can make up the 10th plate, and then still each can relatively get a meal. Same with 8 and then 7. But then once you start getting down to 5, 4, and 3, I'm telling you, people are going to be getting strangled. People are going to be getting plates smashed on their heads. All kinds of backstabbing, all kinds of treacherous things are going to be happening to get that food. Because there's less resources in contrast to the amount of parties or people that need the resources. You see? Because there's a certain amount of energy that is required to sustain this body. And it can't go below. There's a certain threshold that you can't go below. Otherwise, you'll actually die. You see? So the more people we have, the higher that threshold goes just to sustain us. So, in a sense, it's like humanity just becomes like a cancer. Because the more of us there are, the more we need. And it's not... Yeah, the more of us there are, the more we need to sustain ourselves. And the more of us there are, and the more we're consuming, and the more we consume, then the less resources there are. Then it's going to be less and less resources and more of us. And then eventually the imbalance will become so stark that it's just going to collapse. And a lot of that stuff's slowly happening already. So yeah, all of that tangent just goes to kind of say that, in a sense, we're not to blame for being selfish, for being evil, because the environment is set up in such a way that incentivizes that. And it's not even that it incentivizes it. In fact, the moment any being incarnates into a limited form, necessarily they are going to be evil. It's impossible to incarnate into a limited form. It doesn't matter if you're a human or an animal or even an alien in some alternate universe. It doesn't matter how highly advanced they are, they're evil as well. Because the moment you become limited, you have to be evil. Because remember, I said evil comes from self-bias and your own agenda, and in a sense, you're imposing your will on others. Like your agenda, you're kind of saying, fuck what you want. What I want really matters, and I'm going to step on you and crush you no matter what the consequences are, as long as I get what I want. That's in a sense evil, it just encapsulated. And you need to be that way to survive, because as I said, the moment you have a limited body, it needs to be you didn't even decide that you need to eat foods. That's what it means to have a body. It needs to be sustained. This is a certain amount of energy. You're an energy being. If you go past a certain point, you'll die. So you need to be selfish. If you weren't selfish, like for example, if we put you in that room with the 10 people and the 10 meals, if you was the least selfish person in that analogy, you would die first. Now, if you were saying, yeah, don't worry, you guys eat, I'll eat last, you'll die first. And in fact, the most selfish person would be the one that would, and the most selfish, the most evil person, they would likely be the person to survive. That's even why in such treacherous times, if you look back in the past, in the dark ages and all these things, in treacherous times, that's why you get all these warlords and all these fucking crazy emperors who just killed millions of people, because you have to be the most cutthroat to rule in an environment like that. Otherwise, you'll just be dead. You are the killer or you're the killed. You're the tamer or you're the tamed. See, so when you're kind of put in a situation like that, what are you going to choose? Even if you masquerade as a nice guy. See, and then this is kind of where it gets into that video that done with like the devil is a scapegoat. It links in very much with that, because then that psychology kind of comes in, because even there's people, see, you right now, if you think that you're not evil, the psychology that you're doing, you'll commit evil acts and still make it seem to yourself like you're the good guy, because how will you do it? Very simple. You'll say that the person you stole from or the person that you did evil to, you'll call them evil, and then you'll say they deserved it. And that's what everyone does. Look at how wars happen. One side, they always come up with a name, like, and they come up with a name, like, dehumanize the other side. They kind of make them seem like subhumans. Like, if you can check any of the wars, like World War II, and the English people called the German the Krauts or whatever, and then the Germans probably called the English people whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, any kind of name, and then the whites will call the blacks niggers, and then the blacks will call the white folk. I don't even know. Like, I'm sure they have all kinds of crazy names. So this is just how it fucking goes. This is just how it goes. And then what? Humans, we kill and eat animals, and we kill and eat animals, right? And we act like that's just normal, like nothing's going on. Like, that's not evil. Like you kill an animal, eat it, and then you say that it's not evil, right? Like why is that? It's because you're gonna just say that's just an animal, though. It's not even a human. You're just gonna say it's an animal. And in your mind, when you hear animal, that means like below you. Like to you, like you can't even register its pain. You can't like when you kill that fly or that mosquito, when you kill it, you don't feel anything, right? You don't even feel a blip. Maybe if you was to kill a dog, you would feel something, but you don't even feel a blip when you kill a fly, right? Because like to you, that's not even a conscious being. Like that's not even alive to you. Like in your sense, like that's not alive. You're just gonna think that's just a fucking mosquito. It was trying to sting me. See, so you're labeling the mosquito as evil. So when you kill it, you're gonna see yourself as the righteous guy. So how many? Just look at all the past, like just the worst leaders, the leaders who've killed the most people. And what did they all have in common? Every single one of them thought that they was the good guy. They thought that they were saving the world. And it's the same psychology. Everyone uses the same psychology, and everyone denies that they're using the psychology. They'll say, yes, I hear what you're saying. I understand, but I don't do that. They might do that, but I don't. And that's, in fact, you doing it. So it doesn't even matter if, you killed 1 million people, or maybe even if you just stole £5 from your parents when you was a kid. You just took £5 from your mum's purse to go and play with your friends, thinking that's innocent. And I'm not saying, you should be locked away, you should be burnt in hell forever, anything like that. I'm just saying, like, that was evil. That was, like, obviously, of course, maybe that's a bad analogy, because your parents probably wouldn't even mind if you took some money and so on. But, you see, I'm just trying to say that just because you've done things on a low scale doesn't mean that you're not evil. And it's almost even that speech from Scarface. And I'm not even trying to say Scarface was wise and was conscious or anything like that. He was low conscious. Like he was just like any gangster. Like he was kind of stupid, but at the same time there was some things that he was saying that was real. And it's true, like, in a sense, he was the bad guy, but that whole speech about, you will need someone, people like me, to point and say, you're the bad guy, but you're just all good at hiding. That's kind of in a sense what you're saying. You're just all good at hiding. You're just punks. You're just deep down you're evil too, but you're even too scared to admit that you're evil. You're evil, but you're even too scared to be evil. And I'm not even trying to justify any wrongdoing or any negativity. I'm not trying to justify any crime. I'm not trying to justify anything, right? Whatever you do is your own responsibility. But still, it's kind of true though, like you're more evil than you would like to admit. Like, I've got a few examples, but like I'm gonna get into that. But like, even just because right now I'm trying to think of innocent examples. Like, for example, when maybe someone like, let's say you played sports in school, a football team, basketball team, whatever, and then let's say you have some rivals and they beat you last year, or you beat them, but it was a close game and that guy, he nearly fouled you or something. And then time goes on, but then let's say next season you check the thing and then you see, let's say maybe they got to the final. You was feeling bad about that, but then when they lost, let's say they lost, or just before they got to the final, their star player, the guy who tackled you and nearly broke your leg, he got injured just before the final. Like, he was about to get scouted and he got injured and now his career's done. And you'll feel good about that. Won't you? You'll feel good. You'll lie to yourself, nah, I won't feel good. But you'll feel good. You feel good when other people, like, you feel good when other people are suffering and failing. Why? Because in comparison, it makes you feel higher. Because the thing that people are missing is that everything is comparison. You can't measure anything or calculate anything without comparison and contrast. And this is why certain people with shit lives, like people who are just miserable, that's why they always, they just resort to trolling and shit talking and all this stuff, because they have nothing good about their life. So the only way they can even make themselves feel good or feel some kind of high or anything is just by bringing someone lower than them. That's the only way they can. And of course, that's like them doing that, them trolls. Like, I just think, yeah, that's just like, that's just pathetic. But then even just a normal person, psychologically healthy and everything, even they'll probably even lie to themselves and deny it. And definitely they'll lie to others. But even them, you're feeling good at the downfall of someone else. It doesn't even matter if it's your opponent. That's evil. That's literally when any evil guy is like, let's say he's killing someone and he's laughing and he's happy about it. That's the same thing. Yes, he's doing it on a way like higher level, but that's literally the same psychology. He's just thinking, that's my opponent. It's good that they're dying, right? He's not thinking, oh, it's bad, I'm killing a human. Like, no, he's thinking these are subhuman people. They should die. That's what he's thinking. He's thinking it's good. He's thinking the more I kill, the better. See, like, when the thief finds money, like, let's say he robs a house, burgles a house, and he finds money, and he takes that money, let's say he took like 10,000, he's not going to be thinking, he's not going to be thinking, I feel bad. I'm happy that I got the money, but I should have maybe just taken 5,000 and left them 5,000. Like, he's not thinking that. Like, to him, that's not even someone else's money. That's his money. He's happy that he found that money. And if anything, he might even be thinking, I wish they had more. I would have taken more and it would have been better. And then see, a lot of you are going to be listening to this and then thinking, but I've never stolen from anyone. I wouldn't be thinking like that. And yes, you may not have been put in them situations, but see, a lot of these things, like a lot of you people that have never done a crime of course, there's certain people who've been put in crazy situations and never done anything wrong, and that's very commendable. But a lot of people who've never committed a crime and all this kind of stuff, like you just was never even put in a position to where you could have committed a crime. Of course, anyone can just like wake up one day and just say, I'm just gonna start running people over in my car or whatever. But like, I'm just saying, man, just in realistic terms, most people who are just good, upstanding citizens, like in the eye of society and so on, it's not really that they're good people per se. It's just that they probably had a decent upbringing. They never really knew any criminals, or maybe they knew criminals, but it was often the fun, and there was enough of a distance for you to even, you was probably judging them and saying, oh, I don't want to be like them. But then even if you, let's say you grew up poor, you had no parents, or your parents died, or this or that, you had no way of providing for yourself, and all your friends, all the influences around you were drug dealers, was this, was that. You'll probably even grow up in such a way to where stealing, drug dealing, these things are just so normal to you. It's like you wouldn't even see that as wrong or bad. That like a normal, like someone else who grew up with a healthy family and so on, the things that they would say is bad, like stealing and all of that, that person who's grew up in that environment, they wouldn't even see stealing as bad. They would see it as good. That's a way to survive. Do you see? So it really matters where you're looking at it from. And yes, there are different crimes that different people commit, some worse than others. But my whole point is just that if you've never had to do anything bad, and yes, no one ever has to do so and so forth, like, but at a certain point, yes, you kind of have to do that, because certain things, like for example, your desire to survive, self-preservation, like yes, that person could just choose to lie down on the street and die, like say, oh, I'm too righteous, I will never steal, so I'm going to lie down and die. Like, no one's going to do that. You know what I'm saying? And then you could say, oh, just go get a job application. Like, there's certain people doing a job application, to them, that's just like what are you talking about? They're just trying to get the next meal. They're just trying to find shelter. And you're telling them about fucking do a job application. See, that's again the lack of empathy. People just have such a lack of understanding of others and other people's situations. But yeah, so for example, I mean, you've watched a lot of movies, a lot of TV shows. What are some of the highest rated TV shows? Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad. Like, all of these kinds of shows, what's going on there? Why do you love that show? What's happening? People getting killed. People getting tortured. Backstabbing. Incest. Fucking drug dealing. Rape. Whatever the fuck you can think of is in there. And you're sitting there watching that and enjoying it. You're evil. But then see, no, I'm just fucking with you. Well, you are really, yes, you are evil. But you're not evil for that. But really, in a sense, you are though. Like, just take a step back from them. Take a step back and think, why do I enjoy watching violence? Why do I enjoy watching people die? And then you're going to say, oh, but it's not real. That's just a TV show. It's just cinematics and so on. All right, cool. We'll get to that. But still, you have to just question yourself once. One sec. Even let's say you're playing Call of Duty and you're killing people on Call of Duty. You're killing people and you're enjoying it. You're not thinking when you kill someone, you're not thinking, that was wrong and bad. You're thinking that was good. Where are the rest of the opponents so I can kill them and get my kill streak? That's what you're thinking. Let me kill them so I have enough points to do this and this. Let me kill him, take his money, which will be good. Because I'll have enough money to get my loadout. So I can get good guns, good weapons, which will be good. Because I'll be able to kill more people. Which will be good because I'll be on the top of the scoreboard. You see what I'm saying? See, again, it's like you prevailing at the expense of others. And yes, of course, I understand Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad is not real. No one really got shot on set. Call of Duty is not really real. Do you think I'm just a fucking retard or something? Of course, I know Call of Duty is not real. It's pixels on a screen. No one really died. But still, you have to just see the psychology behind it. Because, see, why is it that you feel okay to kill someone on Call of Duty, but then killing someone in real life, you would say that's wrong? Or why do you think it is that you could watch a massacre in the movie or in a TV show? You could watch a whole massacre and you see nothing wrong with that. But then if someone in real life kills one person or kills two people, you're saying that's evil, wrong, completely bad. Why is that? Of course, yes, there's the underlying thing of being real. Of course, in my past videos, I've already explained that there's no such thing really as real. Call of Duty is just as real as what you see on the screen in Game of Thrones is just as real as what's happening in real life. What happens in Call of Duty is just as real as what's happening in Ukraine and Russia and what's happening in fucking Israel and Palestine or whatever the fuck. It's just as real. It exists just as much. Same way Santa Claus exists just as much as you and I. We don't exist more than Santa Claus. The only reason why you say we're real and Santa Claus isn't is because of the idea of physicality and the physical paradigm. For example, that is everything's made out of matter. Building blocks, very small units and building blocks that makes up this hand and so on. And so this hand is real, it has substance. Right? And you have to watch my past videos because I've already debunked physicality. I've debunked all of this kind of stuff. So you can't even use that as a ground to stand on. Because you might say, oh yes, I agree Santa Claus is real as an idea. But me and you, we're not real as an idea. But yes, you are. You, what you're speaking about, the you that you think exists, that's an idea. You're thinking about it right now. And if you don't think about it, it doesn't exist. Your idea of yourself, that psychological self, that's an idea. It doesn't exist. It's just as, or you could say it exists, but it exists just as much as Santa Claus. So what's happening in Game of Thrones and Call of Duty is just as real as what's happening in Thing. See, but then you're gonna say no, but in Call of Duty, that's not really real people dying. It doesn't matter if it's fucking made out of atoms or if it's made out of consciousness or energy. It doesn't matter what the fuck it's made out of. Those people are actually real. But see, the reason why You don't feel bad when you're killing someone in Call of Duty, or you don't feel bad when you're watching some kid getting tortured in a movie. It's the distance. It's the distance between that thing and yourself. Like, you could watch 100 or 1,000 people get bombed on the TV screen, but you're not getting bombed, so you don't feel a thing. See, you could say all you want. For example, this example that I was speaking about. Like you're crazy. Like you're trying to say Call of Duty is the same as like what's happening in Israel and with Hamas and all of this lot. Like you're sick. You might say, and you might try to act like you give a shit about what's going on in Israel and that, but I know actually you don't give a shit. You actually don't give a shit. You don't give a flying fuck what the fuck's going on in Israel or in Palestine. You don't give a flying fuck about that kid that got bombed. You really don't. You might act like you do. Try and make it seem like you're a nice person and you care. You really don't care. Because there's such a big distance. Like, it's so far away from you. See, like, if that kid was in your room right now and they got shot in the head right in front of you, then you would give a shit. But when you just see some news report on like a screen about something happening on the other side of the world, you might act like you give a shit. You might put some post on your story, try to like make it seem like you care and you're trying to make a difference, but like, that's all an act. That's all an act. You don't really give a shit because there's too much of a distance, and it's the same with like Game of Thrones and all these things. It's not even really to do about real, because Game of Thrones is real. Like you're looking at it, you wouldn't be able to watch something if it wasn't real. It's real. It's right before your eyes. So it's nothing really to do with being real or anything. It's about the distance, kind of like it's about how connected you are and like if you have anything on the line. And because it doesn't matter if the Hound or if Arya Stark dies or anything. See, and it only matters when those people die if you are so identified with them because you've invested so much energy in them. So then if they die, you might feel something, but that's really you making yourself feel something. And it was just your own investment in it. So that's why if you kill someone in Call of Duty, you've never met that person. You don't know, like that person, even though they died just in the game, some people, they die in the game or they lose the game, they fucking go ballistic. They go insane, start smashing their screen. You see, but like you don't give a shit how that other person feels. Like you can't even see them. You see what I'm saying? So it's more about the distance and the disconnect. So here, for example, there's many of these kind of, not paradoxes, but these situations, social experiment or thought experiment kind of situation. Like for example, if there was like a train going on a track, and there was like, so it was, let's say the train was going on the track and it was going on the right track, but then there's a part where it splits, right? And the track that is originally going on the right track, there's 5 people strapped on the rails. And then there's one person strapped on the other side. But the train is going to the one with 5 people, so it's going to kill them if you don't do anything. And there's a lever. And you can pull the lever and then it's going to redirect the train. And it's only going to kill one person because there's only one person on the left rail. Right? And the whole kind of thought experiment is that, yes, like you can you can choose nothing and then 5 people die instead of 1, knowing that you could have done something to save 4 lives. But then on the other hand, if those 5 people die, you can at least tell yourself they were going to die anyway because the train was already on that track. Whereas if you pull the lever and you kill that one guy, Yes, you saved 4 or like 5 other lives or whatever, but you now really killed that guy. Now you have no rationalization. Of course, you could say, oh, I did it to save the people, but you really pulled the lever now. Before, with the other one, more people are dying, but you could just act like you didn't see that. Or, you know what I'm saying? Because you didn't even pull the lever. It was just like the train was already going that way on its own. You just seen it like 10 seconds before. So if you don't do anything, more people are gonna die, but you can't really because it's not like you strapped them down there, or it's not like the train was gonna kill one person and then you specifically pulled it to kill more people. It's not like that. See, because you didn't pull the lever. So yes, more people died, but then you could just say, oh, some other sick fuck strapped them down. You know what I'm saying? And you can kind of rationalize it. But then if you do the other one, then you're saving 5 people and but then that person, you can't even rationalize and say that you had nothing to do with their death, because if you hadn't pulled that lever, they wouldn't have died. Even if you saved more people. See, and that's not even the example I want to speak about. That was just like one of the main like ones that pretty much everyone knows. You guys can let me know what you would do. I don't know what I would do. I would argue that everyone can say what they think they would do, but you really don't know until you're in the situation. And I feel like that's the most honest answer. However, I wanted to kind of create a situation that is somewhat similar to this, to kind of show to you that I'm not trying to say you're like the most evil person in the world, but you have to admit, like, you're evil. Like, you are evil. For example, so I was speaking about the Call of Duty and the Game of Thrones and so on and all of this kind of stuff. And also that thought experiment I just told you. So think about this. I think I've heard this before as well, yeah? Like if you were to go on a game like Call of Duty, or I don't know, you were to go on some kind of game and then you had to kill someone and then you won $1 million for that, would you do it? And of course, you would all do it. You would all go on that game, kill that NPC character and get your $1 million. Even I would do it. I'm not trying to, there's not a trick question or anything like that. That's cool. But now, imagine a situation where all you have to do is click a button. All you have to do is click a button and somewhere, a random person that you don't know, somewhere on this earth, not even 5 people, not 10 people, not 20 people, just one person. You've never met them. You never will. You don't even know who they are. A random person. You press a button and one random person in the world will die. And you will get 10 million for that. 10 million pounds. To press a button and kill someone, a random person across the world. You wouldn't even have to see it happen. You wouldn't have to watch. You wouldn't have to know who it was. Nothing like that. You just press a button, a random person dies, and you get 10 million. Would you do it? And really, don't try and lie to yourself and make it seem that I'm a good guy and so on and so forth. But like, really, would you do that? Like, if someone really came up to you right now, like it was really real, like you was somehow, I don't know, you was in the government basement and it was just, I don't know, they told you that they're doing like social experiments on people. You're one of the people who got chosen, and they're telling you, or it doesn't even fucking matter. But just imagine this is a real situation. And there's literally just one button right here. There's just one button. You press it. A random person you've never met before You'll never meet them. You don't know their name. You don't know what they look like. You don't even know where they are. It's just a stranger. Like, to you, nothing's going to change. Like, nothing will change. Whether that person lives or they die, nothing's going to change for you. You won't even notice. And you just have to press that button and you'll get 10 million. Would you do it? And if you said yes, like, if you said no, I want you to realize, you might hate me for this, but I want you to realize you're lying to yourself. I don't want to go that extreme. I don't want to go that extreme because there's some people who genuinely might not do it. There's some people who genuinely might not do it. But I don't even think that even those people who wouldn't do it, I don't even think it's because they're so good and so nice. They don't give a flying fuck about that person. It's just what they do care about is how they view themselves. See, if they did it, then they would have to recognize and accept, oh yes, I am evil. Like, I've been evil all along, but that's what they don't want to admit. So they would not do it just to kind of uphold that image of themselves as being the nice guy, the good guy, the righteous guy. But anyway, most of you would say yes. Like, be honest with yourself. If you just had to click one button and some random person died, and you get 10 million, like 10 million, most of you would do it. And if you said you would do it, then you have to realize you're evil. See, because what this example goes to show, right? Again, it's about the distance and it's about the consequences. That's really that's like the little like missing detail is the consequences. People think that they're so good, so nice, so righteous, but a lot of times they're just scared of the consequence. And there's a lot of like shows or experiments, all kinds of things where they kind of play with this idea where they test people and see like how they would act, like when no one's looking or when they think that there's no consequences and so on. And you would be surprised at what starts to happen. Like, why is it that in a lot of times when, let's say, like in like a society collapses or let's say a government collapses, of course, like the government's there to kind of keep the order and so on. So of course you would expect chaos to happen, but still, why? Like, let's say if there was a blackout or something like that, why would all of a sudden everyone will start looting? Everyone will start fucking doing crazy shit. Like, why? It's not because all of a sudden they started turning evil. Like, no, they was always evil. It's just that before they felt like there was consequences there for their actions and they feared those consequences. Of course, there's certain, like, see, everyone's evil. There's certain people, the small percentage of everyone who's all evil. And then there's certain people who, like, they're evil, but they don't even care about the consequences. And they're usually the people that get caught and thrown in jail and labeled criminals and that everyone will actually label evil. It's the people that are evil but don't really care about the consequences. Those are the people that everyone labels as evil. And like, in comparison, like when they judge themselves in comparison to them, then they can call themselves good and feel good about it. But really, the only difference was just that you were scared of the consequences. And what this example goes to show, if you didn't even know this person, like, literally, like, 1 second, 1, 2, 3, like, literally, I don't know the statistics, but literally every single second, that's probably like 5 people dying, maybe 100 people, 100 people. 200 people, 300 people, they all just died. Like, literally every single second, every millisecond, there's people being born and there's people dying. Like, just every second, like literally as you breathe, like you breathed in once, probably 3 people died. That's how much people are dying all the time. So really, yes, there wouldn't be any difference. Like, especially if you didn't even know what they looked like, You've never met them. You don't even know where they are. Like, if you press that button, literally, it'll make no difference to your life. Like, no difference at all. If you kill that person, like, you wouldn't even know if they died or not. See, so it's a lack of consequence. Like, with no consequences, you would be surprised at what you yourself would do. Of course, there's other people who are even worse than you and who will do even crazier things. But you have to realize that it's always about the lack of consequences. And that's why we have things like prisons and all of this kind of shit. So yeah, you need to really just question yourself. Realize how many times you've done certain things at the expense of others. Like, question yourself about, like realize, remember I said again, what causes evil is self-biased, being skewed to yourself. Like, you put your own opinion and belief above everyone else's. And everyone's doing that, remember, because obviously you need to do that in a sense to survive in this dog-eat-dog world, as I've explained. But yeah, so because you're self-biased, you probably wouldn't even want to acknowledge other times where you've hurt people, even if it was a small or whatever. But just try to check, like, look back at times where you've hurt other people, where you didn't give a shit, or where you hurt other people but you was happy because you benefited from it, or other times where you did something that was kind of fucked up, but you rationalized it because, you say, oh yeah, I stole, but I stole from someone else who also steals. Like, he's a thief. So if I should steal from anyone, I should steal from a thief. And you try to rationalize it like that, and then you don't feel bad. See, how many times have you rationalized things to yourself? How many evil things have you thought of doing and you didn't do only because of the possible consequences? Like, it's going to be way more than you could even remember, or more than you would want to admit to yourself. So yeah, this one also was a bit of a freestyle. I didn't write really too many notes. I literally wrote three lines. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of that one.